On today's podcast,
I think it's critically important to start thinking what you're going to do when the thought comes in about divorcing or separating. I think a lot of people jump into the process and it's a train that goes down this track.
the truth is adding value will never go out of style. Hello, and thanks for joining us for another Five Things podcast. Actually, second one today, so I'm excited about that. I'm coffeeed up, I'm ready to go, I'm warmed up, and got a great guest today, Jennifer Feinstein.
Feinstein, yes.
It's one of those Joe Theismann, everybody says it different. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here. Good morning.
And tell us a little bit about yourself as far as your profession and what we're here to talk about today.
We're here to talk about mediation and divorce, and I'm an attorney in Raleigh, Feinstein Law Firm, PLLC. And so that's what I do. I do a little bit of estate planning too, but family law and mediation is a big
specialty.
Yeah.
First off, thank you for your business. Been a great client. And you're not from Raleigh originally, right?
No, I'm not. I happen to be from a place people laugh at when they hear the name. I'm from Walla Walla, Washington, which is a small town in southeastern Washington. Born and raised there. Left when I was 18, actually went to a community college for 2 years. Then I went to San Francisco to go to college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I was born in Sacramento, so from that Northern California area, originally anyway. And so you're in college in San Francisco, and you just decide to pick up and move across the country. Get us up to speed. What happened?
Well, what happened was I went there to study hotel restaurant management and marketing. So when you work for hotels back in the day, and I don't know if they still do it now, but they moved you around every 2 years.
Okay.
So I worked for the Hyatt in San Francisco at Union Square. And then from there, I went to Austin, Texas and lived there for about a year and a half. And then to Orlando, Florida, still with the Hyatt doing sales. And then from there, I moved to Amelia Island, Florida, where I worked for the Ritz-Carlton for a couple years. And then my husband at the time, we bought a staffing agency up here in Raleigh. So that's why I'm here.
What brought you up here? Well, what a cool concept. So you got to live in some really great islands or some great places.
Absolutely.
And Amelia Island, is that the Keys?
No, that's the most northern part of Florida. It's up kind of by Jacksonville.
That's where I've heard that before.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
Beautiful.
awesome.
Beautiful.
Well, what a great gig. You got to, see some awesome parts of the country on Hyatt's dime.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you make the journey to Raleigh, and obviously it's been good for you. You're still here. What do you love about Raleigh versus the rest of the places you've been?
Well, I've been here since 1993, so clearly, yes, I do love it. Yeah, I've seen a lot. I love it. I love the location, that it's close to the beach, it's close to the mountains. I love the people. I love that the universities are here, the medical facilities that are here. I just think it's a phenomenal place to raise children. It's beautiful. The seasons are beautiful. I could do without the humidity, but
humidity gets a little rough. I'm a West Coast guy, so I'm not a fan of humidity at all.
Absolutely.
So we're in agreement there.
Yeah.
So growing up, you're in sales and marketing, basically, customer service, probably, a large part of that. When did you decide, you know what, I want to get into law?
I wanted to get into law when I was 12 years old. So my mom and dad went through a divorce, and my mother, she had 3 children. There were 3 of us. I was the oldest. I'm the oldest. And she just kind of fell apart. She didn't know what to do. She was devastated and wasn't functioning well with it. And I ended up reading a lot of the documents to her to kind of help her through it. Emotionally, she was just really,
tough time.
Right. So I just thought about it and I thought, this is so interesting. And, but at the same time, it's a devastating process. And I felt like I wanted to be a part of it, to learn more of it, because I thought I could help. I thought this is a great way to help people. And so I just really wanted to get into it. The more I learned about the law, the more in different areas even, it just is so fascinating and intriguing. And it's something that I found myself doing in my off time. I would read about the law just for pleasure. And it was always the feeling that I always had. But growing up, it wasn't something that I felt confident enough to pursue. So throughout my life, I did other things, but I always felt that little knock inside. Go back to law school. Go to law school. Go. You need to do this. Not go back, but go. Right. And so finally, it was a second chapter decision, and I did it later in life. I've done other things, as I said before that. Everything involving so much with people, because I love people and interacting with people and helping them. So I just finally did it, and I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm real big on self-awareness, and, I think a lot of people are doing things they're not terribly thrilled with, and not to be mistaken, there's things that we all have to do we don't enjoy, regardless if we're in a field that we love. But paying attention to what you're good at or what you're naturally drawn to, I think that there's a lot to be said for that, to finding your niche. So, kudos to you for listening and being open-minded and being able to write a new chapter right in the middle of the book and just say, hey, I'm going to go in this direction because I want to follow my heart, So that's pretty awesome that you did that. And so you end up getting into law, and you end up really kind of carving out your own niche with it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I have a philosophy, and I really believe, and I think it's a culmination of everything that I've been through and that I've done in my own life. And part of it is the long career of dealing with people. It's listening to people and what they really want. So my niche really is to help people make it through the divorce process, not turn the wheel so it's excruciating and painful, but to really help them find a way out of it. Disentangling is hard enough in and of itself, but if you can help guide people through it a little bit more and educate them, and it's more of a partnership working with people to disentangle rather than not letting them know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Which, it's such a tough process, but I'm actually kind of fortunate. I don't get into a lot of the stuff, especially on a video, but my ex and I we basically did mediation on our own. I think both of us being business owners, you kind of reach that point to where one of the things I really appreciate about her and I, to give ourselves credit, is we literally sat down with a notepad and just kind of drew all the things, what do we got to deal with and this and that. And there was a handful of things that we had to, we were both, I don't want to say arguing over, but those were little sticky pain points. And if memory serves me correct, I believe I just said, okay, you take the first one, I'll take the second one. And it's like, neither one of us are going to be happy. So let's just divvy it up and move on. And we had an attorney draw up the paperwork, had an attorney review the paperwork, the separate person, we, moved on. So before we go into the 5 things, because you've got some 5 things here that I think are really good for people to know. Going back in time, if you could give advice to 18-year-old Jennifer, what would you say?
A couple things I would say to 18-year-old Jennifer is, number one, you hear an inner voice. You do. I think we're all aware of that. You hear it, but you don't really pay attention to it sometimes. I think it's really important to hear it, to listen to it, and to trust it. That's one thing I would say. The next thing I would say is, go for your education, go for your dreams, whatever it is, whatever you decide to do or whatever you think you want to do it, because it keeps options open. You never know where you're going to be in your life. You never know what you're going to end up wanting to do or what you're going to have to do. So if you have your options open, I think education allows that. And I think really believe in yourself. And sometimes I think when we're younger until we get older, they say that youth is wasted on wisdom is we have wisdom and it's wasted on, can we pause on that? That's not good.
Sure.
Okay. But I think that it's really important to believe in yourself. And if you do, then you'll have the confidence to do the things that you want to do. So that's what else I would tell the 18-year-old Jennifer.
Which is a good point. And the thing I'd like to pile on to that is that you may get a lot of criticism from people that care about you. Oprah Winfrey, for example, when she was a young news anchor, she had the opportunity to go make this 3 or 4 times what she was making in Atlanta, to go be a news anchor and have more status and all that kind of stuff. And she followed her inner voice, and she was going from like 10 to 40,000 a year if she took that position, and more celebrity and, moving up. And And she decided to stay, and she followed her gut, and she accepted a $2,000 raise, 10 to 12 rather than 10 to 40. But that path led her, she's a billionaire now. And so I think it's important to understand that not everybody's going to understand your journey. When I got into the security industry, I left a salaried position to go straight commission. And I don't know anybody that was cheering me on back then. I don't remember anybody except for the guy that was recruiting me because he was making money on me. But when I really looked at it and I followed my heart and I just, it just made sense to me. And I thought, I can be good at this. And that's 23 years ago. And so I agree with you 100%. Follow your heart, self-awareness, understand who you are, what your strengths and what your interests are. And you can tell you're a people person. You can tell you got a big heart for people. And I think that, that probably plays very well in your mediation aspect of it as well. So when people start moving towards getting separated or divorced, we'll go ahead and jump into the 5 things about divorce and mediation that the average person should know.
Thank you. And I like what you just said, Brian. I think it's really important. I think it's critically important to start thinking what you're going to do when the thought comes in about divorcing or separating. I think a lot of people jump into the process and it's a train that goes down this track.
Just an emotional.
Right. And you're not prepared. It's like, because they say marriage is about love, divorce is about money. And marriage really is, there's love in it, but it is also like a business relationship. I mean, it's a working relationship. So I think that before you start making these decisions of divorcing, you need to really think about what I need to do to prepare, who I need to talk to, and to really start thinking about it as if you're almost unwinding a business or separating a business relationship. One of the things I would say to people is make sure it's what you truly want to do. It's really what you want to do. That you're not being encouraged by friends pushing you either because they're single and they want you to party with them, or, they're miserable in their marriage and they want you to be miserable. Make sure it's what you want. The next thing is make sure you understand what you're really getting into. I always tell my clients, it's like a medical procedure. If they tell us we need to have surgery, carpal tunnel syndrome, whatever it may be, knee replacement, whatever, you need to understand what is it going to cost, what's it going to take, what's my diagnosis, prognosis, what's my rehab, what will be the long-term effects, will I have to have it done again? And I think that doctors are really good, hopefully for the most part, but we know we have to probe. More so in that, area of questioning so we can make really informed decisions. When we're going down a legal process, especially with divorce or separation, because we're so emotional, we've got kids involved, we've got money involved, we've got a history, it's a death of a dream, what could have, would have, should have. We need to really understand, what is this going to look like? What do I need to do? How long is it going to last? And sometimes, I'm an attorney, and sometimes some attorneys are very litigious and go down this road of tearing it up. And sometimes that's what people want. But at the end of the day, there's really not a win in divorce. It's not a winning situation. These are lives, right? And families. So I would say make sure you really understand the process. And I really sit down with my clients and I make sure they understand what every aspect is. The next thing I would talk about is litigation, and to really understand what that is. The toll it's going to take financially, emotionally, physically. It's a lot of stress. It's expensive. Time-wise, it can take years. And you need to understand what you're in for. And if that's a decision you make, then that's great. But you need to, again, really be informed. Mediation is a whole different process. Litigation, really, what that involves is you're turning your life, your children, your lives over to a judge to make those decisions. And I've been in the courtroom with some great judges who have said just flat out to people, I don't know you, I don't know your children. Is this the decision you want me to make? When, particularly in custody, when you have a choice to mediate first. Mediation is the 4th thing. I just think it's a beautiful process, because that's where two people, as you said and you shared, and thank you for that, that you shared, when people come together and mediate, it's when they decide that they're going to have the ability to carve out a plan that works for both parties.
Basically collaborate to form a solution.
Right, collaborate.
Right.
And the mediator isn't making any decisions, any legal decisions. It's a facilitation of helping these parties come together and to make a plan that works for them in regard to all aspects: children, the marital estate, separation, all of it. And then the fifth thing really would be, I can't say this enough, and I say this to the parties in mediation, before mediation: make sure you love your children more than you like, or more than you dislike, or you hate each other. Really, you have to keep your priorities straight and focus on what's really important. And I love the saying, anger is like drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die. And I think it kind of goes with that.
Probably see that a lot with what you deal with.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing that, one of the things I love saying is the word responsibility. It's, when you break the word down, we have the ability to choose our response.
Exactly.
That's our responsibility. So what I get really disappointed in myself when I react out of emotion versus choosing my response intelligently. And that's where I wasn't acting responsible. I was reacting out of emotion. And, from an outsider looking towards people going through divorces, try to get out of the emotion the best you can.
Absolutely.
So you can choose your response.
Absolutely.
Versus reacting and obviously taking the high road, which is really tough because it's such an emotionally, it's personally, it was one of the easily the top three toughest things that I went through in my life, for sure.
Well, I tell them that they need to take the high road. And I say, it's not easy. It's really hard. The only way through is to keep walking on the high road. And sometimes there's not a lot of oxygen up there, but really it's the best, way to go through this. And you want to go through it with integrity. And really, like you said, take the emotion out and think about your responsibility too. And if you don't have children, it's also, the same. Go out of it, so that you don't tear each other apart. Everybody can heal and move on.
Well, awesome. Well, I think that's great advice today. And, hopefully you guys got as much out of this as I did. And, thank you for sharing. And obviously, you want to say the name of your company again?
Feinstein Law Firm, PLLC.
Okay.
Yep.
So, it's easy to demonize lawyers that are, family law lawyers or this and that, but they're there for a reason.
Absolutely.
And it might be a great idea to consider mediation before, going full-blown guns at each other. So thank you so much for joining us today, and look forward to next time on the 5 Things Podcast. Hello, this is Brian Smith, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more valuable content.